Do you come from a land down under, where women go and men plunder? Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies. A special guest, Tim Davis. This is the podcast where all three of us went and saw a movie at our local Regal Cinema Theater. And now we're going to talk about it. In Matt's on the Pilot, right after the movie, in the parking structure. We're going to talk about such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Should you snack during it? Should you hold off? Should you bring kids? Should you bring a date? I don't know. Should you go alone? We'll try to tackle these hard subjects and, deliver whatever we can to you. That's our promise. Hopefully we'll live up to it. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy, and I think the men actually chunder, Todd.
Oh!
In a land down under.
Plunder. I looked it up.
Well,
whoa!
There you go.
That's what I was looking up when we were walking to the car. Because I did not know. I mean, it may be later in the song. The verse that I looked at.
I thought it was some Australian thing. I don't even know what chunder would mean. Anyway, well, I'm glad we got that lyric right, and I'm glad I could be corrected, and we can move on with our podcast. Well, yes, we went, and as Todd said, we saw a movie. This movie is called Anyone But You, a little rom-com in the style of some Shakespearean stuff, and there's some people in it, and Tim?
Second verse says men chunder.
Oh, they do chunder.
First,
so they plunder and chunder.
Okay, so different rhymes.
Oh, well, women aren't even mentioned in the second verse.
Oh,
where
okay.
beer does flow and men chunder.
Oh, okay.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. We'll have to look up what chunder means
While we're
later.
learning about chunder.
We're big in Australia, apparently, so if someone could
that
just
is true.
let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Hit us up on the Facebook, the Instagram, wherever you find us. Well, anyway, Tim, who's in this movie?
So I was saying, this is really the cast of recognizable people, actors, even if you don't know their names per se. Our leads are Sydney Sweeney. She's mainly known for two different HBO shows she's been on, Euphoria and The White Lotus. And then Glen Powell is most known as Hangman from the Top Gun Maverick. He's the male lead in this. Other recognizable actors, I would argue, Dermot Mulroney is Sydney's father in this. He's been in tons of movies over the year. Probably his most famous would be My Best Friend's Wedding, where he's the best friend.
We also just watched him in
and he
Scream
was. I would say if you want to
whatever.
go more recently, yeah, Scream 6. But he's been around a long time. And then a small one, one of the friend of of Glen Powell's character, Alexandra Shipp, is in this. She was Storm in the younger years X-Men timeline. For those who saw those movies. But other than that, I would say it's mostly a mix of Australian and American actors, obviously, because it's placed in Australia.
That it is. So what's this movie, Anyone But You, all about? Well, it's about Bea and Ben.
Correct.
And they have they're two people who have a brief dalliance in New York City, and then they find out that they have mutual friends and relatives, and two of those people are getting married. And that marriage is happening in Australia, and they end up having to travel to Australia at a time where they hate each other because of bad feelings. That one night, and there were bad feelings, but then they go to Australia together. And will they repair their love? We don't know. They do, and then they don't, and then they might, but they could. Anyway, this movie is...
But there is a lot of that.
There's a lot of back and forth.
And there's other people involved.
That's probably the best description you could have given
really
this movie.
There's layers.
There's layers, but are there really layers?
I mean, right.
Yeah, so this movie is a rom-com. It's a love story between these two, and they've just got to figure it out. And they swing back and forth between love and hate. There's a period of time where they're pretending to be in love, but they're not really, and then they really are, and then they aren't, and then they are. It just happens a lot. So I think that's enough for us to say about the plot of this movie. You kind of get it, and
you get the gist.
You get the gist. Todd, what are your back and forth feelings about the movie? Anyone but you.
So I think overall I liked it, but the back and forth in this movie just got old real fast to me because, and I think ever since you said it, like it's just ruined rom-coms for me because they just all fall into this category and of like simple communication would solve the whole issue that everyone's in.
But there would be no shenanigans, Todd.
Yeah, it's what makes it completely unbelievable to me. There's like really a 2-second conversation would have fixed a lot of what was going on in this movie.
I do feel like the first night and the aftermath was handled in realistically as far as that would go.
Yeah, I get that.
But
then
you're
once
right.
they saw each other again, it could have been
Yes.
like, oh, you're mad at me. Why don't we talk about it?
Right, yeah. No, that
So
part's
that was hard because there's a lot of back and forth with that. Like there's a lot of, oh, we're on the same page now, and
But then
and then
there's
it's like,
later
oh,
another
miscommunication. We're not going to talk about it. Like, so that was hard for me, and honestly, I might be in a boat by myself here, but I did not like Sydney Sweeney in this movie. Like I felt most of her scenes fell flat with me. Really, honestly, the thought that was going through my head every time she was like the lead of a scene was, this would be better if this was Florence Pugh. But that's just me. Maybe you all disagree, but I found her to be the
let's
weakest.
recast this movie with Florence Pugh
yeah.
now. I'd watch that.
I'll
Right.
recast most things with Florence Pugh, but that's a separate story.
It just I don't know. It was hard. Like I just was like, everyone else is putting forth a good effort. I'm not saying she didn't put forth a good effort, but it just wasn't hitting home with me personally. Otherwise, I thought like the main two characters of this movie, okay, you can like them or hate them or whatever, but I thought all the side characters are what carried this movie.
Yeah, there was
for
a great
me.
supporting guy.
And that's the reason to see this movie. I think not if you want to see a movie where the two mains are kind of like fine, serviceable, but then all the side characters are what carry the funniness of this movie and stuff like that. Then that's a movie for you. I thought that the script was goodish, except for what I've already pointed out of story-wise. And I did enjoy myself. So, it's going to get a fair to good rating for me. But, the negatives that I mentioned really kind of are going to not give it a huge rating for me. So, yeah, that's it. It seems like there's a huge part of this movie that was cut, because of some after credits things we saw that happened in locations that we don't see in the movie at all. So I'm like, what happened there? And also, I mean, probably the best thing this movie has going for it. No, that's a lie. It's not the best thing, but it's a good thing, a very good thing, is that it's short. It's like an hour and 30 something.
Gets in and gets out.
Which I think is the perfect time. If this movie was longer, I just would have completely lost it. I would have been like, I don't care. We're on the 5th. Will they? Won't they? I don't care anymore. You've beaten the dead horse. So that's me, Tim.
Well, I will go into this saying that I'm a sucker for a fun rom-com that's well done or well acted or both, or they have good chemistry, etc., etc. And I think this one checked all the boxes for me. The leads are likable and understandable, especially, like I said, I thought the first night and their misunderstanding there was handled in a way that you totally believe what would happen and the animosity between the two. And then to play it up to a sitcom level, which it did at times, so it wasn't afraid to be silly, really silly, and embrace that. And I thought that was fun too. I mean, it didn't go no hard feelings crazy like last year, with Jen Lawrence, but it was definitely a movie that wasn't afraid to be kind of silly and out there. Along with, like you said, the supporting cast, which really shines. They make the family all quirky people too, who, in their scheme to get these two together in their mind to make the wedding go off without a hitch, they do some really silly stuff too, and it's just part of the fun of these characters all acting together and who's being real and who's not and all that. And I don't know, it all worked for me. I didn't have a problem with Sydney. I don't think anybody stood out in a way in this that was bad or good. I thought everybody just kind of did what they were supposed to do, and it clearly looked, especially by those end credit scenes, that this just was a fun movie to make. And I thought that translated in how the movie came across. And so I had fun watching it, and they had fun making it, I think. And that's good enough time at the movies for me. Matt?
Well, you both have touched on some things, which I'll also touch on.
Yes.
One thing is the length of this movie. An hour and a half, to me, seemed like 3 hours.
Okay.
This movie could not have been over fast enough for me. It was pure garbage in my mind.
Wow.
I thought it was ruined by Sydney Sweeney's performance. Every time she gave a mumbling, half-eye open talking, every time she talked in this movie, I felt like she was mumbling or slurring her words or something. And it totally distracted me and took me out of the movie almost every time she was on screen. And
Wow.
That's a lot.
that is a lot.
It's clearly one of the leads.
Were there some funny things that happened in this movie? Yes. There were some funny things, including one moment which I laughed out loud.
Yes, I heard you.
And
Was it the anteater?
yes.
Yes.
Yes. It definitely was. So it's not all bad, but I was taken so out of this movie. I understand it's a rom-com. I understand it's vacuous. It's
The
just
tropes
fun.
and all that,
It's
yeah.
like whatever. But that piled on with what I thought was really bad acting from Sydney Sweeney, piled on with the will you, won't you.
Yeah.
Too many times back and forth. It was too much for me to overcome, like, the small glimmers of joy that I got out of some of the
Scenes
funny
that were
moments were weighed down too heavily by the rest of it. So it's not going to be great for me, and I wish this was like a actual sitcom length of like 30 minutes. Maybe you could pull something out of that. But anyway, I didn't like it. I didn't think it was good. But that's me, and we're allowed to have different opinions.
Of course.
Fair enough. Well, down to business.
All right. What do you... Anteaters?
No, I've already referenced anteaters. I
Okay.
can't go back to the well. How many butt grabs would you give this movie?
I mean, right. Yeah, that's key
Zero being, zero, and you got none, and no one's grabbing your butt, and you're not grabbing a butt. So what are you doing with your life? 5 being the best, because that's a whole lot of butt grabbing and a lot of variety. So, Matt.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 1.7 butt grabs out of 5. This wasn't good for me, and the only reason it made it past 1.5 was the butt grabs and other funny things that happened in the movie. But the rest of it, too much to overcome. So 1.7 for me.
Tim?
I'm sure I'm going to be on the high end compared to you two, but that's okay. I'm right at a solid 3.0, right in the middle. It was fun, enjoyable, hit the tropes that you're supposed to. I didn't mind the ups and downs of it. I expect it with these movies. And I thought this one was a little more fun and clever than a lot of the, traditional ones that aren't clever anymore. And because there aren't as many of these as there used to be. So I have no problem with it, and 3.0 is where I land.
Fair. I'm gonna land like right middle of the road for this one. Maybe a little under middle of the road. I'm gonna land on a 2.4. I definitely agree with Matt about Sydney Sweeney's acting. It didn't completely take me out of the movie though. But like even the funny stuff at times, like it was just really unbelievable. Like the whole butt grabbing scene, as much as I laughed during it, I was like, this isn't a thing. Like you aren't doing stuff that people super do all the time, especially out with other people. Like I get you're putting on a show.
Right.
But it was a lot of like going for the butt underneath clothing, and I was like, ew, come on. Like what's happening?
Who does that?
Yeah. So maybe just not us. Maybe it's a worldly thing and we don't know.
Not in public anyway. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, I think there were obviously funny parts. I did chuckle a lot during this movie, which is good, and it's why I supported like the side characters and the supporting cast and stuff like that. But I do think the leads were not where they needed to be to carry this movie. Like, I think in a rom-com, the leads carry the movie, much like most movies, I guess. But it shouldn't be carried by the side characters. I mean, they're there for support, not to take over the movie. So, those are my thoughts.
Great. Yeah, you know what this movie reminded me of? What was the movie where they, the two people who hated each other and they went away to the island for their kid's wedding and they ended up falling in love?
I mean, that's every...
Was that the Jennifer Roberts, George Clooney movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I never saw that movie, but I'll agree with you.
I feel like there's so
we
many...
did not review that movie.
We didn't?
No.
Oh.
You must have just seen
I
it.
must have just watched it.
There's so many plots that are very similar.
Yes, lots of plots.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway.
Unless I'm wrong. I mean, we've done like 350 something
Yeah, you guys have.
reviews.
Well,
I don't remember
200,
listening to that.
200? I thought we crossed 300. Did we not?
Not yet.
Oh, dang it.
We also didn't do our year-end recap.
We did not. Let's not do it now.
Yeah,
Yep.
they sent me the year-end recap before it was the end of the year.
Right.
Right.
We talked
is
about
weird.
that a little bit.
I don't appreciate that.
Yeah. No, we're at we probably haven't hit 250 yet.
Man, really?
We're very
Wow.
close.
Well, I guess if it's
I think
52
we're around
a year.
245.
Hmm.
But anyway,
Wrapping up.
that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we reviewed the movie Anyone But You, and we gave it an average rating of 2.3 and 6 repeating, which is
Just
a
under.
little bit below average. So I think in general, we probably would say don't see this. But if you like Tim a lot,
Yeah,
if you
if
like
you're Team
Tim's
Tim.
opinion, Team Tim.
I was going to say, if you're just a sucker for a romantic comedy,
Yeah,
you're
if
probably...
you
this is
like
There aren't that
rom-coms,
many of them anymore.
go ahead and see this one. But other than that, we didn't like it, and but we still thank you for listening to our podcast. The first episode to be released, well, I guess it won't be the first
No,
episode.
second.
First episode to be recorded
There.
Yeah.
in 2024. So please keep listening, downloading, and hopefully we'll have another great year.
We
on
did
the
hit
podcast.
52.
We did hit
Yeah.
52 episodes last year. One
One
per
per
week average.
Yeah. Nice.
So, yeah. So, yeah, keep listening and subscribing and downloading and all those good things that you can do to a podcast. Do it. And we will see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.